about his recent brush with mortality. He has a lifetime career as a designer of words and pictures, who, while entering the last quarter of his life, finds it imperative that takes care of his health. It has to take priority over most everything else in his daily life. Out of the excess of good health, can he do other things in his sphere of influence? So let's welcome Ian Black.
George Washington not only cut down his father's cherry tree, but he admitted it. This is a lesson the teacher was trying to teach to her class. So she asked Louis, why did the father not scold George for chopping down his cherry tree? And little Louis looks at his teacher and says, well, perhaps because George still had the axe in his hand? You never know when the axe will fall. I dodged a bullet. And I decided immediately to change my life 180 degrees. I'm turning 360. Now, what does that mean? Well, I knew it was coming. It wasn't a secret, because about 6 years ago, I traveled to the United States to the Swedish Heart Institute in Seattle to get a calcium heart scan to find out the degree of calcium plaque that had built up in my heart. And I did that because I had gone to get a complete medical from a doctor up in Nanaimo. You go to see your doctor today, you get a 15-minute slot, and you can't do anything. I went for a 3 or 4 hour exam, and out of that came the advice that, hey, with your family history, you should perhaps look into this. And we can't find those in Canada, but you can go to the States and get them. That was then. Well, over the 6 years, I tried in all kinds of ways to try to find ways to remedy my problem. See, my problem was that my heart had blockages built up in me. And those were a problem for me. I would notice them when I would walk up a hill and get angina, which is a kind of tightening in the chest. And recently my wife was away in Mexico. I didn't travel because that place in Mexico had no hospitalization of any note. You could repair a broken arm or something, but nothing of any significance. When she came back, she said, you know, we should really chase this down a little more. So I went to the doctor, and he said, well, I think we've got to get you into a cardiologist. And so I went to see a cardiologist. Fortunately, there was a space, a cancellation, lucked into that. The next thing I knew, I had done a stress test, and I was headed to the hospital, our incredible hospitals that we have here in Victoria, the Jubilee, to get an angiogram, which was a way of looking inside. Well, while I was on the operating table, and they had a catheter up inside my heart, they placed a couple of stents in places where I had some severe blockages. In fact, exactly the places that had been indicated on that scan. Now, it's an amazing device. I feel invigorated and rejuvenated, but it's only a stopgap measure. This is actually a line, and this is in 1964, my father, my dad's guardian, had a heart attack then. But this is the line of the decrease in mortality from heart incidents due to technological advances. But they're not dealing with the root cause. It's a bit like mopping up the floor, but not turning off the tap. You know, it's not going to solve the problem. And I recognize that as being a problem for me. And so I have changed my diet to a vegan diet. I am 100% vegan. Now this will show you, this is 400 calories of oil in the stomach, 400 calories of beef, and 400 calories of vegetables. And you can see what happens. Around the outside of the walls of your stomach are sensors that tell you when you're full. You don't get that feeling here or here. So we have a tendency to overeat these materials. We fill up with vegetarian stuff pretty quick. And this is a study of mortality of vegetarians between vegetarians and omnivores that have gone on for years. These are all individual studies, very in-depth studies. And this is, they favor, only a few of them at the bottom have a little favor for omnivore, but they pretty well favor a vegetarian diet. A pretty significant thing. Bill Clinton, you remember Bill Clinton? He also had that issue happen to him. And he turned it all around for him by doing this kind of diet. So, I want to tell you a little story about a population that had to become vegan all at once. And it was during the Second World War when Norway was occupied by Germany. And it took away all their livestock, all their animals, all their cattle and their goats and their chickens and everything. And they shipped it all back to Germany to feed the troops. All of a sudden, the Norwegians had to fend for themselves and eat mostly a vegan diet. Well, guess what happened? Their incidence of mortality from circulatory diseases dropped. And then when the war ended and they started to get back to their old ways, their incidence rose up again. This is a very dramatic chart, and it says one thing very clearly. Meat kills faster than vegetables. Vegetables will make you last longer. Just a little bit, it's your choice. But this is what we're fighting against. The whole industry of soft drink, dairy, egg, livestock, processed food, poultry, fish, I mean, all these industries are working against you. But you can change if you want to live. And I want to live. I want to come and see your faces and be in your company. And so I'm going to leave you with just one thought. And it's this. Why do we do the things we do?